Michel, thank you very much for joining me this morning on the third day of our event here. How have you enjoyed it so far?
It was very lively and quite exciting for a number of sessions, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, did you make some new contacts?
I did with some companies and some peers, so very interesting.
Excellent. You were actually in one of my favorite sessions in this conference. It was the one where we talked about the name, really.
Right.
And we've had this debate over a couple of years, really. Is shared services still a relevant name? What's your view on that?
Well, I think shared services doesn't mean much, really. When you think about the word shared, it doesn't really add any value to our customers. Our customers don't see necessarily a benefit in sharing. They see a benefit in the capabilities we have, which is different. So they see a benefit in us having a global delivery footprint, us having capabilities in transformation, us having capabilities in terms of finding new customer solutions.
One of the comments made yesterday was sharing implies that you get two for the price of one, or you might get some kind of diluted version of the service. And I think some of the ideas put out was that were that the name should perhaps reflect the solutions or what you're actually providing to your customers.
Right, and it's my aim at Siemens is to become a provider of solutions that help people in Siemens perform better in an easier way and more effectively.
Okay, so describe your operation at Siemens.
So operations, we're about 6,000 people today, processing finance, HR, procurement, and also other operations like global marketing services, mergers and acquisition support.
So would you describe it as a multifunctional global shared services? I know we're always talking about definitions.
Right, definitely. It's currently multifunctional and global.
Within one framework?
Within one framework, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your customers are all over the world?
Customers are all over the world. It's all Siemens business units or sectors, as we call them, on a global basis, absolutely. We've got 360,000 users for payroll.
Yeah. So what are your key priorities for the year?
Key priorities are really on transformation. So we're still in this transformation phase, but also...
From what to what, Michel?
From, let's say, from becoming more automated, improving quality, and better performance overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do you report your I'm going to start this question again because we can edit it.
Right.
When you provide metrics on your delivery, how do you report that up to the board?
Well, we have a whole set of standard KPIs that feed a scorecard. We report to an advisory board on a regular basis, twice a year, and we report standard performance KPIs, but our advisory board is not really about performance, it's more about strategic direction and where we want to go with shared services.
Can you tell me about the big data program? How do you run that?
Yeah, so we're trying to do it at our level, using the data we deal with within Siemens and finding solutions for our customers. One example is a solution we found where we identify leads for the sales organizations using the internet and robots to identify leads that otherwise salespeople would not be able to identify because it's too difficult, technically speaking. So that's one example. And
do you have a data team that you've set up or established that is supporting this?
Absolutely, it's a small team, but very, very strong and experts in webs and robots. I can't explain to you what they do, it's so complicated. But it's a small team and they're very good at this. Yeah.
Were you in the Google presentation yesterday?
I was.
So he described this brave new world, which he, according to his vision, he says it's going to impact all of us. What did you think of what I found interesting was he talked about the technology that they provide, which really could replace an in-house, as I understand it, a kind of mainframe. So how would you imagine this would pan out at Siemens, say in 5-10 years' time? 10 years' time, I think we need a lot more time.
Yeah, I think I still need to understand there's a lot of issues around security before.
Well, he says they're not a concern.
Right, he says, of course,
Yes.
but we still, we've had in Siemens quite a number of security threats, including some viruses at our customers' plants a while back. So these things have been fixed, I believe, but there's a very strong concern over security in Siemens, very justfully. And so, we'll really need to understand those security issues before moving. But there's also internal clouds that we can use, and I
Have you
think
developed your own?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's within, let's say, it's the same principle as a cloud, but within our network. And this technology certainly is gonna grow very fast, very fast.
What are some of the technology developers that you think are producing interesting tools today? Not necessarily companies that you're working with, but people that you may have met here in the exhibition hall.
Yeah, perceptive software.
Perceptive, okay.
Right. Each time I discover new things like dashboards on governance, which I had not seen before. So.
Yeah. How do you manage your customer satisfaction metrics?
So we have a very, very robust process for customer satisfaction. It's a key topic. So we have first a whole governance structure where we look at engaging with customers at operational level in a very systematic way, regional, tactical level, and strategic level. But also we measure user satisfaction per service, on a monthly basis. It's actually on an ongoing basis. So we can, at any point in time, see exactly the performance of each service in terms of users' satisfaction. And we also measure customer satisfaction, of course, and also developing an index, a flashlight for customers to see where they are during the year, not just after a year.
Yeah. I have a question more about you as a German company for a moment, because we don't have as many German companies within our network, perhaps, that are actively pursuing or developing a shared services. Do you think this is a kind of cultural hesitancy that German companies may have towards this kind of a model, or do you see a change happening?
I do see a change happening.
Brought on by the economic necessity, perhaps?
Absolutely. I think the economic situation is supporting that trend, of course. But I see countries like Germany and France not having moved along the shared services model as much as other countries like UK or the Netherlands in Europe. But I think this trend is gonna change. There are some factors that hinder a little bit the change. It's the social regulations in both countries are pretty strong.
And the labor regulations,
And the labor regulations.
I was in the round table yesterday. We held a round table for France, Germany, and I think the Benelux countries. We split our delegates up into lots of different regional round tables.
Right.
And one of the interesting things I thought in that particular room was a lot of the people present were considering pulling out of those countries. Redeploying to somewhere else, but one of the issues they weren't sure they were going to do it, but one of the issues they mentioned was this, not that it's impossible, but it's very expensive to extradite yourself from France or Germany.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, because then the business case is much weaker, of course, and the return much longer. So the priority may not be, very high.
And I suppose a lot of the shared services in these countries are also brown fields, so they tend to be, one of the points they mentioned was that their employees are 15 or 20-year veterans. They've come from the accounting practice into the shared services. Compare that to the Johnson & Johnson site I visited here 2 days ago. Everyone is under 30.
Yeah, that's
so,
true, yeah.
The cost therefore would be much less if you did have to make changes. But do you think in Germany that we may see more establishment of shared services types of models, or how are companies going to leverage this?
No, I think companies in Germany are going to move to shared services models, not necessarily setting shared services standards in Germany, but outside of Germany.
Do you
Czech
think
Republic is a great
nearshore,
example.
so Eastern Europe,
Yeah, I think Eastern Europe is a great location, and Czech Republic certainly a great location. Also, the German skills are really strong, and the closeness and the proximity with German border is so easy to get there. So I think Czech Republic is a great opportunity, so companies are going to move to shared services, not necessarily in Germany, although there are good locations in Germany also.
Which would be good locations, for example?
For example, the ex-Eastern German cities are actually much cheaper, and with, if we talk about Berlin, very, very strong language skills in Berlin. So there's already a number of call centers there, and it's a great location for that type of activity.
What about Spain? Do you think Spain could be leveraged for Germany?
Spain could be for Germany, but not just for Germany. It could be for Southwest Europe, generally speaking.
Yeah. Michel, you have a very large operation. Can you describe how they are set up?
So we've got 5 main locations. The biggest one being in India, Bangalore, with 1,100 people. 1,100. Czech Republic with Prague and Ostrava. Then we have China, Lisbon, and Buenos Aires. So these are the hubs. But we also have in each main country some local operations primarily dedicated to human resources activities.
Okay. How do you manage talent management? So it's something that we hear a lot about in terms of, first of all, developing successors to your roles to make sure that the company is protected against the risk of someone with an awful lot of management experience leaving.
Right.
And how do you bring up the talent that you need for all these different locations, considering that shared services is no longer about managing transactions that we discussed at the beginning, but that it's all about developing solutions. So you need, I presume, a very different type of person.
Right, absolutely, and that's not an easy change, because obviously when you start shared services, you always start with transactions. So the skills required are not the same as for finding solutions. I think one important aspect here is how you engage your organization with your customers. And that helps developing the skills of understanding the customer needs, the customer requests, the customer business. So the process of customer relationship management is actually very, very critical. And we've developed that process at operational level, at all levels in the organization, that we involve our customers in what we do in our improvement projects. And that helps understanding what they require and how we could better develop solutions.
Do you do an exchange? Do you send some of your staff into the business units on rotation and vice versa?
No, we don't. There are exchange programs where we try to move as many people to the businesses, not as many, but we try to move people to the businesses, and the other way around, of course. So getting people from the business into shared services. And that helps certainly a lot, but it's not necessarily a huge,
not a big part of it.
A big part of it.
Do you think there's some value in external accreditation, in developing, as you probably know, SSON has, and we run a accreditation program, and we actually plan to develop it this year and make it stronger. We've had a lot of feedback from the industry that it would be useful to have an impartial third party providing some of the core competencies. Do you think there would be value for an organization such as Siemens for this?
Yeah, I think it would be valuable to be able to identify someone who's had experience, who's had the competencies to run shared services, to run transformation, to run migrations, transition projects. I think there's a lot of things in a third-party program that you could include, such as service management, dealing with the customers, transformation, how do you approach quality, KPI management, and so forth. That could be very useful.
And my final question to you, can you describe your organizational setup?
So organizational setup is per business line. We have finance, HR, procurement, and business solutions. Each of those business lines reporting to me, but also very strongly into their function. So the functional alignment is very critical. And they work with their functions to determine which service, etc. The whole aspect of shared services altogether is there to provide support and synergies in terms of quality management, of customer relationship management, KPI development, project management office, HR management. So all these functions go across the business lines and give a huge benefit to the customers that we all speak the same language to them. And interact to them as one.
Yeah, but at the headquarters of Siemens, you also have a core headquarters GBS team, do you?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. We've got a small team providing support to the regions in terms of transformation, and also interacting with the key stakeholders at headquarter level also, to determine the key strategic topics for the next year, the key programs and so forth.
Thank you so much, Michel, for your time. It's been lovely meeting you.
All right, you're welcome. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you.